Today we finish with the book of Judges, and to that I say, thank God. This is a very, frankly, unpleasant book filled with numerous texts of terror, if you will, things that are just so horrendous and so painful to read that you wonder, why are they even in the Bible, except it shows the immorality, the violence, the greed, the stupidity, the ignorance that tragically has been part of human history from the beginning. And in the final chapters of Judges, we see horrendous things happen. There's brutal sexual assault and murder and kidnapping, human trafficking. It's terrible. And the very last verse of the book of Judges sums it up. Judges 21, verse 25. In those days there was no king in Israel. All the people did what was right in their own eyes. Now, a couple things about that verse. First of all, it's clearly the work of an editor who's writing from the time when there was a king in Israel and writing from the perspective of, hey, it's a good thing to have a king to rule over the people, because clearly the people can't rule and manage themselves well. But it's also pointing out that living in any kind of community or nation where everyone does what's right in his or her own eyes, while some people might say that's a good thing, the book of Judges says what that leads to is violence and war and bloodshed and greed and chaos and crimes against the weakest and the poorest and the most vulnerable in a culture. So as we get to the end of the book of Judges, part of what we take from it is that apart from God, we are in a sinful and a broken world, and violence has just been a part of humanity, and unfortunately, our technological advances has made it much easier for us to commit greater violence against more people in less time. But we also see the importance of holding on to God, following godly leadership, obeying God's commandments, looking out for everyone in a society. It's really painful to read through the book of Judges, and I'm glad it's over. And thankfully, next week, we get to turn to a much warmer, nicer story, and that's the book of Ruth. And I look forward to talking with you about Ruth as we move on to a story that will have great consequences for Jesus' family tree.